a virtual meeting done by Zoom. Karen, could you take roll?
Bob Mason,
Here.
Matt Carpenter,
Here.
Ricardo Rivera,
Here.
Kai Cottom,
Here.
Tim Hines,
Here.
Dennis Miller is absent, and Valerie Watts absent.
Thank you. Next is approval of minutes. Dispersed in your packets should have been the minutes from August 19th's meeting. And that is an action item if anyone has reviewed them and would like to suggest action.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Matt?
Also,
Tim
I'll
Hines
second.
seconds. Any discussion on the minutes? They look good to me. All in favor? Thumbs up.
Aye.
And an aye from Tim. That leaves no one to oppose. Very good. Next is visitor public comments. I don't believe we have anyone here. And did anyone correspond in writing, Karen, to the requests that we put out since the last meeting?
I have not received any.
Okay, thank you. Staff reports, presentations. I didn't make it in the packet because it's timely and it's all the way through October 19th, but I did submit through your emails a traffic safety report from the police department that lists the accidents and also some of the statistics from this past period between the last meeting and this meeting. And I would say the only thing to really of note in that is that the state has passed some legislation based on some of the problems with DMV surrounding COVID that is limiting our enforcement of several statutes that would require DMV's availability to allow people to stay in compliance. So we have, you'll see a reduction in enforcement in, we titled it Dmv Issues, where we gave 44 warnings during this period, when normally a lot of those would have been citations, everything from a expired driver's license to expired tags to, there's a whole list of things that even if we do write a cite, the judge has been instructed to dismiss those. So that goes through the end of the year, that legislation that was passed. Everyone get an opportunity to see this report, and are there any questions?
Well, I've only got half of it. My screen cut off half of it. So whether or not I saw the summary down on the bottom though.
Okay, with the citations?
Yes,
Okay,
that's probably the most important.
If you saw that, the only thing that you didn't see, the only thing that was on the top of that report was traffic accidents, and it gave a description of what type of accident they were.
Okay. Yeah, it's cut over in half. It's not lengthwise. I saw the accidents and stuff, so it looks good.
Okay, no questions on that. We will move on to action and discussion items. And the first one up will be the parking code update. We have had this out now for a while. We did have a committee of staff and one member of the citizen side of this committee that met here at City Hall and came up with this draft. Fred Evander was kind enough to join us and help with the wording here as well, and actually typed it up for us, which was really nice. Fred's pretty good at doing code writing, so it was nice to have his input. Since then, the only thing that I had gotten back as a question was something that I just forwarded on to Fred, and it was about parking in beauty strips. And Fred responded back that that is covered in some of the codes that he has, and he didn't feel it necessary to be in this code. So is there any other comment on these codes? Did anyone see anything else that they wanted to suggest a change on or discuss?
Well, the first one I got, Bob, it showed a lot of deletions and all sorts of things. Now I've got one up, I pulled it up again, and it shows without anything other than, looks like Susan added something, and then there's a conference in blue ink right under the beauty strip, be right under definitions before stopping, standing.
The recreational vehicle?
Right. So is this, the one I got initially had all sorts of things for deletions and so forth, and now the one I just pulled up only has the recreational vehicle added, and I think one thing that Susan put in for an officer or traffic control signal in any of the following places.
So if you keep
So is this
scrolling,
the one?
if you keep scrolling down that document and get down to number
Oh, here we go.
9,
Yeah.
it should be struck out.
Okay, there, I've got it now where all of them are. So I just had questions if it struck out, and I don't mean to be taking up all the time here, but the one I had a question on was within 30 feet of an official flashing beacon, stop sign, or traffic control sign located side of the roadway, and I don't have a number next to mine, but it'd be about in the middle. And is that a deletion?
No, I think all that's changed on that one, Tim, is it changed from number 16 to number 15, but the text in my version remains the same.
Okay, and I don't have any numbers, it's just all blotted out, so where the number should be. I stop at number 9, and after that it's no numbers other than a little green tab in them.
So you've got a formatting issue in however you're viewing it, I think, because
Probably so.
I think I'm viewing the same version, but no, that text is still the same as previously written, that 30 feet of a flashing beacon, stop sign, or traffic control sign.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't know if you wanted to explain it and then had questions about it that way or not, but
No, this is the
anyway.
time.
Okay.
This is the time for those
Okay.
questions, so feel free.
I just have a question on that one. I guess it is number 15, is that right?
Yes.
Within 30 feet of the, how does that deal with the stop sign issues like down by the bank at Main and Monmouth? Parking is within 30 feet of that.
That's a good question, because I think you're right. It seems like parking's probably, yeah. Kai, what do you think on that?
Well, there's bulb outs down there. So I don't know. I'd have to go down and measure it. I mean, it's 25 feet normally, I think, from a stop sign.
Right. I'm thinking of the bank and in front of all that whole corner right there, the three-way stop. I'm just thinking the parking is probably within 30 feet of legal parking.
Yeah,
Of a
I
stop sign.
definitely check that out. I can't say for certain.
Okay.
Honestly, Tim, that was already in the old code, and I didn't give it much thought as far as whether it's in compliance with the way town is now or not. But that is a good question to ask before we go in and ask for some changes to make sure that the current code is what we really want.
Okay. And the other question I had also was about the storage containers or dumpsters with city permission. Would that be something like if I would order one of those drop box dumpster type things that Brant's deliver? would I have to get city approval for that if it's on the street? Or is that something that Brant's would automatically have granted permission?
No, I think that's something you'd have to get permission for. And I think they actually do now, like if they put them in our downtown. I don't know
Yeah.
about residential, but
I think that the one below that, number 5, might cover that. Any solid waste receptacle.
Right. I'm just thinking that you have to get permission for any time you get one of those then. I'm just thinking that's a lot of red tape. So
there are times that we
You wanna
don't allow
try?
them to go where they want to put them. I know
Okay.
that and that's why they have to get permission. And I don't know so much for the smaller dumpsters that it's an issue, but oftentimes we're talking about the larger dumpsters when people are doing a big job, and there are places
Right.
it would interfere or make conditions unsafe.
Okay. Wonder if we could change that to, I think you can only rent those for a week, isn't that? I'm not sure what Brant's does, but I'm just looking at if it goes beyond that time, get permission, but then I can understand that if you drop in the middle of the street, you can't have it there. So, anyhow, I'll just leave that one alone.
I had a question about that, and it says city permission, and then above on 1B. Was that where, yeah. When a person is in charge is immediately engaged in construction or maintenance. Who's giving permission for those?
That is something that we have not worked out, but it will be come to City Hall and get permission. It will be either Public Works or the city side, I would say. They'll have to, I ran that one by the city manager, and we determined that we would just have to figure that out as we went.
Okay.
Who do you think should give permission? I'll just query you now.
Well, we have a permit for that.
Okay. So the permission will come through Public Works, I guess. How's that sound?
We have a right-of-way permit. And that would, and we can just waive the fee. And that would allow them to do what they need to do and have something in writing that says they have permission to do so.
Perfect.
That was gonna be one of my questions about the fee involved. So there's not gonna be a fee involved with that then. If a private person or whoever is just waived.
If it's a contractor and he's doing labor and crossing the sidewalk or working in the street, there will be a fee because we have to come back and inspect that.
Oh, okay. But if for a private person, that wouldn't happen as long as they wouldn't have to cause traffic problems.
Yeah, as long as they don't cause traffic problems or don't impact, let's say, the curb, the street, or the sidewalk. So if someone decided to put, let's say, a retaining wall in and got a backhoe and was driving it over the sidewalk and curb,
Okay, I understand.
borrowed it from their brother, we're going to want a permit on that. And we're going to highly encourage them to take pictures before they do the project, because we're going to come back and take pictures after they're done.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm pleased with that.
And I will point out, while we were talking, I saw Valerie Watts joined us. So she is now on the meeting. Hello, Valerie. At least her name's on the meeting.
She might be muted still.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hello, Valerie. We're currently discussing the parking code update.
Yeah, I was reading through it earlier.
So if you have any questions or things that need to have attention drawn to them, that's where we are now.
Okay. Well, when it references a camper, it doesn't necessarily reference a camper as being attached to a pickup truck?
Are you in definitions?
I believe so.
Can you help guide us to where in the document you're looking?
Okay, let me find it.
Okay.
Okay, well, it says under beauty strip, recreational vehicle means a vehicle with or without motive power, which is designed for human occupancy and designed to be used temporarily for recreational, blah, 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 blah. And then it says definition shall include pickup campers. So does that mean pickup truck with camper?
Or just a pickup camper that has been taken off of a pickup, I would say even fits.
Oh,
The pickup
and-
camper, I would say, is like a recreational vehicle that rides in the bed of a pickup truck.
okay.
Does that bring clarity to it or answer the
Yeah,
question?
it
Oh,
does. It
good.
does, yes.
Are there any other questions?
I just had one. Where do we come up with the 24 foot on that? Is that pretty common? The
Yes,
length?
yes. It's that 24 foot and 8 feet was to allow what you would consider a typical or consumer level vehicle to park. So if you went out and purchased a new crew cab pickup, we believe that that would fit within the that definition. We actually did some measuring of some vehicles and changed that a little bit so that, and the 8 feet was wider than it used to be, but that's because there are more dually pickups that, you know, people drive as their own vehicle, not necessarily for commercial purposes, and that allows them to have those as well.
Okay. I think overall it looks pretty good, Bob.
Okay. Well, I am sure our next stop is City Council with this, and I'm sure there will be more questions, and we will we'll deal with those as they come and make changes as necessary. But if this group's comfortable with it as written, I will pursue the next step to get it in front of the City Council for their recommendation.
Hey, Bob.
Yes.
I have a question. I've raised this before on parking in front of your own driveway. Is that a city of Independence or is that kind of a generic ordinance that most cities adhere to?
And again, can you help me out with where in the document you're looking?
It's on the second page. I have 189.
Okay. So it would technically be unlawful for you to park in front of your own driveway. What I will say about that is that I would never say it would never happen. Barring something extraordinary, I find it difficult to come up with a situation where that would get enforcement unless you were complaining about it as the person who needs to use their driveway, right?
I was just wondering if that was kind of a statewide.
That actually could be in the Oregon Motor Vehicle Code as well. I think it is
Mhm.
as a parking regulation in the Motor Vehicle Code.
But it would be up to the city to enforce it or
Yeah,
any law enforcement,
yeah. Both,
both.
yeah. I would not mind having this be an action item. So if anyone wants to suggest that we take this to council, I mean, I feel like that's where we're heading now with the way it's written. But if someone wants to make a motion on that, that will make it official for us.
We would make that motion, with the exception of that 30-foot strip I talked about until that's clarified. To go move to council, forward to council.
Okay. Just to make sure that we're within compliance in our downtown on that now.
Right, that's the only concern I'd have on that. But I'll make the motion and move forward to council.
Second,
Motion and a second. And any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. That passes. That takes us to digital speed sign information. And I will turn that over to Kai, who gave you a whole bunch of literature in your packets.
I'm on my computer. I got to switch over to that screen somewhere. As you know, we've been discussing options for speed complaints coming into the Traffic Safety Committee. I still can't find it. Sorry, I have two web browsers open. There we go. Okay, so the example here is from a local vendor that in Portland, Oregon that we use, Traffic Safety Supply. This is similar to the signs in Monmouth. Since the last traffic safety, I paid a little bit more attention to these signs. They come in a lot of varieties, including one with red and blues on it that I thought particularly caught a lot of attention. I've also done some more research on speed humps. So I have some cost estimates to speed humps, and that's going to range depending on whether we have a paving project going on or not and a striping project going on or not, anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. And then there's also maintenance that it's going to have to be done for the striping. Those each hump, which you normally would have two, one in each direction of travel, would has to have 10 stripes and directional arrows along with the signage. So there's going to be some increased cost in maintenance as well. And if you're removing them, that is somewhere in the $2,000 to $4,000 range if you're grinding one out and removing it. Some of the other issues that traffic, and what I'm leaning towards based on the research I've done is that not that traffic humps are off the table, but they may be a second option if we find whatever our first option is ineffective. The traffic humps are only good for speed areas at less than 25 miles an hour. So they are limited in that way. The other way they're limited is they affect all vehicles on that road, whereas the speed sign only affects the speeders. There's also some liability issues with the speed humps that you don't have with the speed signs. There can be noise complaints from speed humps that you don't have from speed signs. And one thing that is a pro and a con of the speed hump is that it can redirect traffic. So people will literally not drive down that street because it has a speed hump on it. I think that would be something that in certain applications could be beneficial. if we're trying to direct traffic to another street and reduce speed on that street. So basically the cost of the speed hump is more than the speed sign. The maintenance is more than the speed sign. I think the liability and impact to a neighborhood is less than a speed sign. So, and there's a couple studies out there that back that up. There's been a couple studies in Washington and California actually that I can make available also. Does anybody have any questions on the speed humps or the signs that are in the packet?
What was the difference? You sent 2 flyers on the speed signs, and what was the main difference on those? I know the cost, other than the cost.
What was that again? The flyer? I didn't catch that first part.
Okay, the speed signs that show your speed.
Huh?
What's the difference between, you sent 2 flyers, and what's the difference between those other than the cost?
One of them had access to a cloud, I believe, that the other one did not.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
I think one's a little bit bigger and has that writing underneath too, aside from just
Okay.
the speed.
Okay.
It looked like to me.
I think both of them have the cloud option.
Yeah, there's endless variations. I would just use that as an example. That's just a local
Okay.
vendor reuse. There's endless variations of the speed signs. I don't know that we would go with this particular vendor or this particular sign. It would be the easiest one for us to vet because it's used in the Portland area for maintenance, cost, and effectiveness. But I think we would probably work also with the PD to make sure that, you know, anytime we put a sign up that has to be enforced, we want to make sure that they're comfortable with it as well. And that probably means that the judges and everybody else, Chief could probably fill you in more on that, but that's always a box we try and check.
Well, these won't have any direct enforcement because they're not going to take pictures or anything like that.
Well, yeah, I guess there's still a speed enforcement sign though, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't take the place of any speed
No.
sign. It would just be an additional.
Yeah. An additional speed sign. I did read an interesting study about photo enforcement though, while I was researching all of this.
What was that?
Really controversial. I did not know that.
Yeah, very, very. I'm not even sure that well, if we wanted to do it in our town, the only types that are available to us, an officer has to actually hold. So an officer could go out there and shoot vehicles that would take a picture of the vehicle and not stop the vehicle and then, you know, deal with getting them a ticket in the mail kind of thing. But an automated one that just set up, there's limited jurisdictions that are authorized to do that by size, or then some just got their name on the list and we are not. So
If I could interrupt, I was at a League of Oregon Cities conference, and one of the vendors were speed sign vendors like that. And they actually had a product that, depending on how fast you were going over the speed limit, at one point it would even flash as though it was taking a picture. It really wasn't. But it was just another way to kind of.
Oh, I think that's this one.
That's
It does.
Yeah. I think in the literature that Kai provided, when you see the one that says your speed 100, and then there's a little snowflake looking thing in the 100 symbol, I think that's like a strobe that strobes, and it looks like a flash.
Oh, nice.
So interesting. One of the studies I did read showed that speed humps lose effectiveness over time, and that speed signs do not.
Well, it sounds like the Public Works Department thinks that speed signs are a better option.
That's
At least
from the data I looked at. Yeah.
At least to start. right? And then
Yeah, I looked at, yeah, Bothell, Washington did a big study. It was over 6 years. And San Bernardino, California did an additional study for cost and maintenance. So those are the two studies I used. One was for effectiveness from Bothell, Washington, and the other was for long-term maintenance from San Bernardino, I think it was. So those are the kind of the two spectrums that I looked at. And, you know, based on those numbers, it's pretty glaring that the speed display sign, radar sign is more effective. Now, that being said, I would imagine that, you know, some of those like directing traffic to another street could be interesting to use with a speed hump. If the traffic, you know, if you wanted to speed at 25 or below and wanted to redirect traffic onto other surface streets, you could kill two birds with one stone. Effect, you know.
that
that
would
was
really be something our TSP should consider.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it actually listed it as a negative that people just go around them, and I was like, well, in some cases that could be a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
the people in that neighborhood would probably agree with you, wherever it was, that it reduced traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it,
Would that have any problem with ambulance and EMT service? The
yeah,
hump-
yeah.
No.
That's a great question. That's a great question. There are two types that try to mitigate that, and you stagger them a certain distance apart. So if EMS was responding, they would change lanes and go kind of like passing a car, and would be able to go past one and then change lanes and go back into their original lane and get past the other one without striking them. The other one is called a speed cushion, and it actually is open in the middle. So they wouldn't have to change lanes. They would just drive through it, kind of like a striped sidewalk, crosswalk, but they're actually raised. I would wonder about the effectiveness of those since everybody can do that. But, and I would also worry about people trying to cross the street. But yeah, it's a great question. And that's a huge concern.
They do
And
have
why-
some of those over at Hazel Glen where the center is,
Yeah, I did take your speed hump information that you provided at the last meeting to the fire department here, and they reviewed it and they were good with it. Said that they signed off for their apparatus here.
you know, and I'm always trying to play devil's advocate when I'm reading something, and you know, and it said increased liability, and I can imagine if seconds count, you know, a speed hump or bump could cost seconds for EMS or somebody responding to a service call. So I did think about that as well. That's hypothetical, but
True.
So we had a request for one of these signs like 2 meetings ago.
yeah,
We had a local resident that requested one on Main Street. And then at our last meeting, I felt like we had requests for speed humps.
Hmm.
I'm not sure the locations that the speed humps were requested make sense for this speed sign because the speeds are so low. Like on 10th and E or,
Mhm.
you know, those types of places. Normally you don't see these types of signs in those types of neighborhoods. They're more like where you're coming into town, where speeds are being reduced or where people can drive faster.
yeah, and that may be an area that the speed hump would apply still. We'll still have to look at budgetary costs, I guess, and it's very hard to remove the speed hump. There is, you know, we looked at some solid processes for that, and when I was looking at Bothell and San Bernardino, they have similar processes available for speed humps that were proposed at the same time as the speed radar signs. So I still think it's open to a dual approach, whatever fits the situation best.
Okay. Well, we were going to talk about some of those other places with data tonight. And I unfortunately am reporting that we have no data because our device that captures data isn't working. it appears we have two of them and they're both doing the same thing. And our IT guy has looked at it and is engaging the vendor to try to come up with a solution. But since the last meeting, I did have some data at the last meeting, and since then, every time I went to check it, it just, there wasn't anything there. And so for about the last 3 weeks, they've been testing it and determined that it's not that we're doing anything wrong, it just isn't working right. So we have no data for the locations that we were going to discuss further tonight. And for that, I'm sorry. Can't really get it any quicker though. We haven't even got it sent back yet. We're still waiting for better guidance on how to address the problem. So Kai, what were you thinking as a follow-up or a future next step on speed signs? If this group thought that was a good idea, how would you think we should proceed?
Well, where did you see the traffic safety committee grant in the budget? Where was that plugged in?
You're gonna test me on video. Hang on. First, I have to find the budget. Try like page 61, maybe. Depends on which budget version you're looking at.
I'm looking at the adopted budget in the Excel. I'm in the Transportation Operating Fund, Fund 220. That's how I look at it.
Hang on. Well, while we're looking, is there discussion about whether the committee members think that these signs are a good idea or not? And then how the process or criteria should be used to determine where we get one if we're going to do it.
Have we thought about how many of these we're gonna need for the city?
No more than we can afford. So I think we'll start with one if we get one and then kind of test the effectiveness of it.
I would imagine California has a lot of solar panels for these, as opposed to Washington.
I didn't see what, I didn't actually look to see what they were using. I just looked at the data that they use to make their decisions.
I noticed that it's an extra cost for solar panels and brackets.
But probably necessary. Otherwise we'd be,
Running power.
Matt, is solar still the way to go on that?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of the quotes that I see have, it looks like the 15-inch has a 90-watt solar panel, and then the other one has like a 55-watt solar panel on those bids that were spec'd.
Okay, Kai, I found it. It is in, so I'm looking at the adopted budget, but it's in 220, and the last numbers are 413310.
413310.
And it's called Traffic Safety Matching Grants.
Well, that's embarrassing. I'm in 220. There it is, 310. Could you repeat that again, Chief? I'm sorry.
The number?
Yeah.
413310.
Okay. I saw 310, which is gas tax. For whatever reason, I don't have that in my Excel spreadsheet. Let me look in the actuals, but it's showing it. Can you take a screenshot or email that to me?
Oh, here, I'll just show it to you. I think I can share. I think Jason gave me the
Ooh.
power here. Let's see. How about that? Can you see that?
I do see it.
Okay, so it is, I don't know if you can see highlighting or not, but it's right there. You can see it.
Traffic safety mention grant. I see it. Okay. Now I know why I didn't see it. Yeah, it's there. You are correct.
Well, that's good. That means that we maybe can do a project this year.
Absolutely.
If we can determine how to prioritize, where to start off.
Normally, I would determine that off of data or accidents or tickets.
Ask Lance.
Yeah, I think Lance would agree with the Main Street concerns. I know he's spending a lot of time down there and writing a fair amount of tickets. I don't know exactly where, but I'll see Lance tomorrow, so I could query him on that, where he thought one would be of the most benefit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One area that I think,
Go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, one area that I noticed a lot of people coming in from Salem to the downtown area where it goes from 35 to 20. I see a lot of them slowing down about 3 blocks beyond that. So I don't know if that would be a consideration for a spot there or not. So, have you had experienced much of that, Bob, as far as
Yeah,
enforcement or anything?
well, we've observed it, and we put our trailer version of this out there quite a bit at that location. That's just a good spot too. It's easy to put there safely, doesn't interfere with traffic or visibility. But yeah, we have also noticed that they're a little slow. They're well beyond the sign and into downtown before they kind of get down to that speed they're supposed to be at.
Yeah.
How much of a complication does it create to do it on a state highway versus a non-state highway for this project, Kai?
Just paperwork.
Okay, not that much more difficult.
It adds a step, it has to clear through ODOT, but I don't think that they'll object to it.
Okay.
Is South Main a state highway, like where it turns into Corvallis Road? Because people coming in from the bridge into town, they have a tendency it takes them a while to slow down as well.
No, that's the city.
We agree. You'll see we have 2 of these that are portable now that we put out, and that's one of those 2 spots that you people have noticed, we have noticed, and that's where our signs often are. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when the trailer's up and working, you can tell that people are noticing, because all of a sudden the cars will take a nosedive. Like, oops.
Well, do you think we need a full process on how this is done, or do you think we should just gather our own information and make a decision? Seems like doing the first one and kind of testing this out, testing the waters, could be done without a really formalized process. But then going on in the future, as Rick asked, how many of these are we thinking, right? There may need to be a process there, or everybody's going to want one. And then there will have to be some mechanism that makes it fair as to where they go, and that it's logical where they go.
Yeah, I can look at some other cities and see how they're determining placement.
Okay. Any further discussion on speed reduction devices.
For me, I think I'd like the one that says slow down on the bottom.
Yeah, that sample that had the text as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Were any of these your red and blue model you were talking about, Kai? Did they have that?
No, they don't have that. I don't know who sells that. And I passed it on the highway, so in Idaho. But I saw it from 3 lanes over.
Got your attention, huh?
It did.
All right, well, let's go on to our unofficial last item, which is any member comment, any action items that people wanted to bring up for discussion before we adjourn tonight.
I've got just one thing. Somebody came to me and asked about the 20-mile-an-hour zone through the high school where it says when in school days, if that's being enforced or how, if that's just void at this time because of COVID or what? Because it is actually a school day, but there aren't students there.
Great
High
question.
school.
Great question, and we've had that question here. We didn't take an official stance on that, like telling the public that we aren't going to enforce it, but I can tell you that internally we aren't going to enforce it. We made that decision. We didn't want to put it out though on social media,
Right.
or make it official, because I just don't know when it's going to change or when all of a sudden there's going to be kids for something I wasn't even aware of. So we are kind of treating all of them, even though they don't say when children are present. It's kind of where we're going with it. If we all of a sudden start seeing kids, because we just don't know, it could be a sporting event or something that they managed to pull off, and now we start seeing a lot of foot traffic where that speed needs to be reduced. Then we don't want people thinking that it's 30 all the way through there. So it's a great question,
Okay.
and we kind of just avoided answering it, honestly. We just discussed it internally so that we aren't enforcing it. But
Okay.
yeah, I would feel like if we wanted to be official about it, we'd have to go out and bag the signs. And I don't even know that that's our. I don't even know that we can do that, can we, Kai? It's probably state signage. So
It is
Yeah.
big sign. That's
Yeah.
not correct.
any other?
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
You bet. Any other comments? I see Matt with a no. And Kai looks content. Rick, anything?
Oh, I'm good.
And Valerie?
I really can't think of anything
Perfect.
other than, the school presence. There are some activities that the kids are doing outdoors, like in the parking lots and so forth. So, but it's usually like later in the day. But it will be getting dark earlier. So,
Yeah. Okay, well, we will continue to try to get more information on actual data, get our machine fixed so that we can collect some. And then we should probably have a conversation with finance before we decide that we can afford one of these signs. Right now, we're on restriction where we have to get approval since COVID started to spend over a certain amount, and this would be over that. So, but we can broach both those subjects between now and the next meeting. Next meeting date, Karen, you don't happen to have that handy, do you?
This is October, so it would be December 16th.
December 16th. All right. And we will plan on that as our next meeting. And everyone stay safe out there.
Thank you.
yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Yeah.